Jason had never felt completely at home on any planet. Born on Earth, raised on colonies scattered across the galaxy, he had grown used to new skies, new air, and new crowds of strangers. But today, standing on a bridge high above the glowing city of Virelia, he felt a weight he could not explain. The bridge stretched over the luminescent river that wound through the city like liquid light. The towers around shimmered with signs and advertisements in colors humans could barely perceive. And the distant hum of anti-gravity vehicles created a low, constant vibration beneath his feet. He was not here for sightseeing. He had come to settle his daughter Mia into a new school and a new life. Life had already taught him that survival was never easy, and starting over was harder than anyone imagined. Yet something far more immediate grabbed his attention before the thought of boxes, forms, or schedules. A figure stood at the far edge of the bridge. At first, Jason thought it was one of the city's holographic advertisements. They sometimes projected lifelike images of people to sell products. But this figure did not move like a hologram. It swayed slightly, almost like the wind tugged at its weight. The closer he looked, the more he realized it was a woman. An alien woman. Her skin shimmered faintly under the neon lights, pale like moonlight, but with a softness that made her look fragile. Her eyes were enormous and green, reflecting the glowing water beneath the bridge. But what truly caught Jason's attention was the despair radiating from her posture. She stood on the edge as if the city itself were nothing to her. Jason's chest tightened. He had been in emergencies before, many dangerous situations, but none like this. The woman looked like she might step forward at any second. He stepped closer, careful not to startle her, yet with his hand slightly raised, signaling peace. "Hey, don't do that," he said softly. "Please." The woman did not respond. Her long silver hair floated slightly in the artificial breeze, and she looked down at the river as if it were the only thing that mattered. Jason noticed that she carried nothing. No bag, no tools, no sign of life beyond her presence on the bridge. He took another step, more deliberate this time. "I'm Jason. I don't want to hurt you. I just want to help." Still no answer. Her body tensed, ready to step forward. Jason could feel the panic rising in him, but he knew the key was calmness. Panic only made people act rashly. "Look," he said, keeping his voice low but firm. "I know something is wrong. I know. Life isn't easy. But this isn't the way. Come back with me, please." For a moment he thought she might ignore him entirely, but then her eyes flickered toward his. A spark of hesitation. It was tiny, almost invisible, but enough to let him know she had heard him. He took one careful step closer. "I'm not here to judge you. I don't care about what others think. I just want to make sure you're safe." The woman's voice, when it came, was a whisper almost carried away by the wind. "I can't belong. They would never accept me." Jason's heart sank. He could sense the weight behind her words. In his experience, alien societies could be harsh, unforgiving, and cruel to anyone who did not fit the standard. He had read reports of entire populations rejecting those who failed to meet their expectations, sometimes with tragic results. "Who wouldn't accept you?" he asked gently. "You're not alone. There are people who care, people who would understand." Her head tilted slightly, studying him with eyes so sad they seemed too heavy to hold. I cannot have. I am infertile." Jason froze for a moment, trying to understand. In this society, he realized, fertility must have been central to one's worth. He had known humans who obsessed over genetics and lineage, but the alien world had elevated it to a principle of survival and honor. For her to be infertile meant she was considered incomplete, or worse, shameful. He swallowed hard and took another step closer. "That does not make you worthless. It doesn't define you. It's just one part of who you are." Her body shivered, but she did not move. Jason knew he had to act slowly. Sudden gestures might push her forward. He lowered himself to her level, careful not to invade her space but making himself appear smaller, less threatening. "I've faced impossible situations," he said, almost to himself. "I've had to protect my daughter in worlds full of danger. I've fought odds that seemed unbeatable. But I learned one thing. Humans survive. Not because of strength alone, but because we care. Because we reach out to each other when it matters most." Her gaze softened slightly. Jason saw tears glinting at the corners of her eyes. He extended his hand slowly. "Take my hand, trust me. I won't let anything happen to you." The woman hesitated, a tremble running through her. Then, as if pushed by some inner fear, she stepped backward, and Jason lunged slightly, catching her wrist before she could slip further toward the edge. His grip was firm but gentle. "Don't jump," he said firmly but without anger. "I'm here. I've got you." Her body pressed lightly against his for a brief, uncertain moment. He could feel her pulse, fast and fragile. Jason realized that this was not just fear, it was despair. A lifetime of being told she was incomplete had brought her to this edge, literally and figuratively. I can't go back," she whispered, almost to herself. Jason nodded slowly, understanding more than she expected. "Then we won't, not yet. We can find another way, but you have to step away from the edge first." For a long moment, she did nothing. Jason held her hand firmly, anchoring her to life. Slowly, hesitantly, she moved back. A slight sob escaped her lips, and Jason handed her a small pack of tissues he had in his jacket. "Thank you," she whispered, voice breaking. I have no one. No one at all. You have me now," Jason replied. "And you have the chance to see that you are more than what they say. You are more than your past, your labels, your mistakes, or theirs. You are alive, and alive is powerful." For the first time since he had seen her on the bridge, she smiled faintly. A small, fragile thing, but a smile nonetheless. Jason realized that small gestures mattered, that sometimes saving someone began with words, not weapons or technology. "Come on," he said gently. "Let's find a safer place. We can talk, we can just breathe for a while. No one else, no rules, no pressure, just us." She nodded, and they moved together across the bridge, away from the glowing river and the edge that had threatened her life. Jason's mind raced with questions. Who was she? Why had she come here alone? And most importantly, how could he help someone so lost in despair? As they reached a quiet plaza below the bridge, Jason offered her water and some small alien snacks he had bought for Mia on the way. She took them hesitantly, studying him carefully as if evaluating every word, every gesture. "I'm Lyria," she finally said, giving him her name. I don't know why I'm still here. Maybe 'cause you pulled me back." Jason smiled, shaking his head slightly. "Maybe. Or maybe because you're stronger than you think. Sometimes we don't realize our own strength until someone reminds us we're worth saving." Lyria looked at him for a long time. Jason could see her walls, the ones built over years of rejection and judgment, beginning to crumble. It was subtle, almost invisible, but it was there. You really mean it? That I'm not worthless?" she asked softly. Jason nodded firmly. "I mean it. You're more than anyone else can tell you, and I promise, I won't let anyone make you feel less than you are. Not today, not ever." For the first time, Lyria allowed herself to breathe fully, a deep sigh escaping her lips. The neon lights of Veralia reflected in her eyes, but this time, they seemed less like judgment and more like possibility. Jason knew the road ahead would not be easy. Her society would not forgive her easily. Prejudice and tradition ran deep. But for now she was safe, and that was enough. As they walked toward the small hidden alley where Jason planned to find temporary shelter, he kept a careful eye on her. Lyria moved cautiously, like someone rediscovering the world. He realized that sometimes the greatest battles were not fought with weapons, but with courage, trust, and the willingness to care for another being. And Jason was ready to fight this battle with her, not just for her survival, but for the chance to show that humans and humanity itself could make a difference in even the darkest corners of the galaxy. Jason led Lyria through the narrow alleys beneath the city, where the hum of vehicles above was muffled by the tall walls of neon-lit buildings. Here the light was softer, less overwhelming, and for the first time Lyria seemed able to relax, though the tension in her shoulders remained. "Do you have somewhere to stay?" Jason asked, keeping his voice calm. "Even for a little while?" Lyria shook her head slowly. "No, nowhere. I left because I could not face them. They would never forgive me. Not after knowing I cannot give life." Her words were hesitant, but each carried weight, as if every syllable had been practiced and still felt impossible to say. Jason nodded, understanding more than she realized. "I know what it's like to be judged for something beyond your control," he said quietly. "People look at you and make a decision about who you are without even knowing you. But it doesn't make it true." She glanced at him, a flicker of surprise crossing her face. Most of her life, she had never met anyone who spoke like this. Most had only looked at her with disdain, or worse, indifference. Jason led her to a small abandoned warehouse that had once been a storage facility for goods and vehicles. It was dusty, quiet, and completely empty, but it had shelter, safety, and privacy. Everything she needed right now. He set down the small pack of supplies he carried, which included water, simple food, and some blankets he had kept for emergencies. "Sit," he said gently. "You can rest. I'll make sure no one finds us here." Lyria hesitated before lowering herself onto the cold floor, wrapping her arms around her knees. Her eyes wandered over the empty space, cautious and observant, as though ready to flee at the slightest sign of danger. Jason sat across from her, careful not to invade her space but close enough to offer reassurance. "You know," he said, trying to lighten the mood slightly, "I've raised a daughter on my own for years. Trust me, I know how to survive even in a city like this." Lyria's lips twitched, almost a smile. "A human has a daughter. And you survive?" Jason chuckled softly. "Yes, she keeps me on my toes. But it's not just survival. It's about making choices. Choices that matter. You've made a choice already. You chose to stay alive." Her eyes met his, and for a moment she seemed to let the walls around her heart weaken. I have never felt someone care for me," she admitted, her voice barely audible. "Not like this, not..." "Truly," Jason nodded. "Then let me show you. That's all I ask. No judgments. No rules, just human care. Simple. Nothing fancy." The two of them sat in silence for a while, broken only by the distant hum of the city. Lyria's breathing gradually slowed and her trembling lessened. Jason noticed how small gestures, the way he handed her water, the calmness in his voice were enough to begin building trust. "Tell me about your world," Jason suggested after a while. "What is your society like?" Lyria hesitated. "It values life above all else. Children, families, fertility. Those who cannot produce are cast aside, shamed. It is not cruel, not intentionally. But it leaves no room for those like me." Her voice cracked at the last words. Jason frowned, thinking about the harshness of some societies, human and alien alike. "That's very unfair. You are more than that. You're more than what they say. That's what matters. That's what I want you to see." She looked at him, tears glimmering in her large eyes. I have tried to believe that, but it is hard. Every day I am reminded, I am nothing to them." Jason reached out, gently placing a hand over hers. "Then let me remind you, you are someone. You are alive. You are strong in ways they could never understand, and sometimes it takes someone outside your world to show you your value." Her gaze lingered on his hand. For the first time, she felt a sense of safety, a warmth she had never known. Jason's words were not empty. They carried sincerity, something alien to her world. Hours passed, but time seemed irrelevant. Jason and Lyria shared stories, small details about their lives, fragments that began to build trust. He spoke of his daughter, Mia, of the challenges and joys of raising her alone in the colonies. Lyria listened, fascinated by the human capacity for resilience and care. "And your people?" Jason asked gently. "Do they ever question the rules, the way they treat you?" Lyria shook her head. "Rarely. Most accept it. Tradition, fear of shame, to defy, is dangerous." Jason nodded thoughtfully. "Then we'll find another way. Not by defying them recklessly, but by showing you your worth in your own eyes first. Then, whatever comes next will be easier." Her lips pressed together, thinking over his words. I never knew anyone could say such things." "Most won't," Jason said. "But I do. Because it matters. You matter. That is enough reason for me." Night fell, and the city outside the warehouse continued its endless hum, lights flickering across glass and steel. Jason and Lyria kept talking, though the words became quieter, gentler. She began to relax, slowly leaning back against the wall, her hands unclasped. Jason could see the tension leaving her body, replaced by cautious hope. Then a sound outside made them both freeze, footsteps precise and deliberate. Not human. Jason's senses sharpened immediately. He had expected that her society would notice her disappearance, and the moment had come. "Stay calm," he whispered. "Whatever happens, stay close to me." Lyria's eyes widened. She nodded, gripping his arm slightly. Jason scanned the entrance, noting the shadows moving against the dim light. Two figures approached, tall, armored, and carrying devices that hummed with low energy, tracking and scanning devices. "They've come for you," Jason murmured. But they won't take you. Not while I am here. Lyria's body trembled, fear evident. They will punish me. Jason gave her a firm look. Then we'll face that together. But not alone, not yet. You trust me, right? She nodded slowly, swallowing hard. Jason could feel her resolve hardening. Not entirely, but enough to act. He led her to a back exit, a hidden door that opened to an abandoned service corridor. The agents paused at the warehouse, scanning carefully. But Jason's knowledge of the building's layout allowed them to slip out unnoticed. They ran through twisting tunnels beneath the city, Jason guiding her while she followed, relying on his instincts. Her initial fear remained, but with every step she took, she realized that survival was possible, that trust could exist, that humans could care in ways alien societies sometimes never allowed. After several minutes, they emerged into a quiet park, small trees glowing faintly with bioluminescent leaves, and soft mist curling along the pathways. Lyria stopped, breathing heavily, but a smile, small but genuine, crossed her face. You saved me, she whispered. No, Jason replied, shaking his head. You saved yourself. I just helped you see it. She looked at him, admiration and gratitude mixing with a hint of disbelief. I do not understand humans fully, but I think I am beginning to. You value life and people differently, Jason smiled. Yes, we do. And sometimes it surprises even us. They sat on a bench beneath the glowing trees, letting the cool air soothe their nerves. Jason offered her water again, and this time she drank without hesitation. Tomorrow, he said gently, we'll figure out the next step. For now, just rest. You've been through a lot. Lyria leaned back, finally allowing herself to feel something close to peace. Rest? Yes, I have not felt safe in a long time. Jason nodded, watching her carefully. Then let this be the start. Tomorrow is unknown, but tonight you are safe, and that matters more than anything else. The night stretched on, quiet and calm, a sharp contrast to the chaos of the city above. Lyria's large eyes reflected the soft light around her, but this time they were not filled with despair. They held the beginnings of hope, of trust, and of a new life, one that she might have thought impossible just hours before. Jason remained beside her, silent but present. In the world of Viralia, amid the harsh judgments of her people, he realized that even small acts of care could change everything. Lyria's life had been shaped by rejection and fear, but now, for the first time, she had a chance to see herself differently, and Jason, watching her breathe and relax, felt something he had not expected, a growing sense of responsibility, not just to keep her alive, but to show her the power of humanity, the courage, compassion, and strength that humans carried. Even in the darkest moments, for tonight that was enough. The next morning, the city of Viralia awakened in a cascade of light and color. Floating vehicles hummed above the streets, neon signs flickered to life, and the soft mist from the previous night had begun to evaporate under the rising glow of artificial suns. Jason and Lyria sat on a quiet rooftop, hidden from the busy world below. You need to eat, Jason said, holding out a small package of nutrient-rich food. You haven't had proper meals in, I don't know how long. Lyria hesitated, glancing at the food. I am not used to humans' food, Jason smiled softly. You'll get used to it. Just try a little. She picked up a piece hesitantly and took a bite. Her eyes widened slightly. It is good. Surprisingly good, Jason chuckled. It grows on you. Humans eat strange things sometimes, but it keeps us alive. For a moment they ate in silence, the city stretching around them like a living machine. But the calm was short-lived. From across the city a low hum grew, accompanied by a faint flicker of red light in the distance. Jason's instincts sharpened immediately. They've found us, he whispered. Her people. They won't let her stay hidden for long. Lyria's body tensed. We cannot run forever. They will catch me. Jason shook his head gently. No, we won't just run. We'll move smart. Humans have a way of surviving even in impossible situations. Trust me. He led her down a narrow stairwell that connected the rooftop to a series of service tunnels beneath the city. The corridors were dark, but Jason knew them well. He had explored them during previous missions, using them as shortcuts and hiding places when he needed to evade danger. They will expect us to panic, he explained as they moved. But panic makes mistakes. We stay calm. We observe. Then we act. Lyria's eyes followed him, absorbing his confidence. For the first time, she felt a glimmer of hope that she might not be entirely helpless. "You really trust me?" she asked quietly. Jason looked at her with a steady gaze. "I trust you because you are alive and because you're trying. That's all it takes." Hours passed as they navigated the tunnels, avoiding patrolling agents who scanned the city for signs of Lyria. Jason used his knowledge of the city's layout to anticipate their movements, ducking into hidden passageways and slipping through doors that seemed ordinary, but led to secret exits. Lyria followed closely, relying on him completely, yet slowly gaining confidence with each step. At one point, they reached an underground market, abandoned during the early morning hours. Jason led her to a small storage area and pulled out a small device from his pack. It emitted a soft, pulsing light. "This is a tracking jammer," he explained. "It scrambles the signals they use to find you. It won't last forever, but it will give us time." Lyria's eyes widened. "Humans, you are clever," Jason shrugged. "We have to be. Survival is not about strength alone. It's about thinking ahead, using what you have and protecting those who need it." They rested for a while, listening to the distant hum of the city. Lyria finally allowed herself to relax, leaning back against the wall. She had never experienced someone willing to go to such lengths for her safety. She began to understand something fundamental about humans. They valued individuals not for their abilities or status, but for their courage, their life, and their spirit. You make me feel alive," she admitted quietly. Jason looked at her, eyes gentle but serious. "That's because you are alive, and you should never forget that. No one can take that from you, not even your society." Suddenly, the floor beneath them vibrated faintly. Jason's instincts screamed. He crouched low, pulling Lyria down with him. Outside, the market doors rattled as heavy footsteps approached. "They're coming," he whispered. "Get ready." Lyria's hands trembled, but she did not run. Jason could see determination beginning to replace her fear. She had survived this far, and now she was beginning to see that survival required courage, not surrender. The doors burst open, and two of the agents Jason had seen the night before stormed in. They carried scanning devices and weapons, but Jason's movements were precise and calculated. "Stay behind me," he instructed. With a quick gesture, he activated the jammer. The agents' devices flickered, their screens going blank. Confused, they hesitated, giving Jason the opening he needed. He grabbed a heavy crate and pushed it in their path, forcing them to stumble. Lyria stayed close, following his instructions, moving silently and swiftly. They darted through the market, ducking under tables and slipping between stacks of crates. The agents shouted orders, their voices harsh and foreign, but Jason focused only on Lyria's safety. After a tense chase, they reached a narrow alleyway that opened into the lower districts of the city. Jason paused, assessing their options. "We need to move higher. The streets are too open. We'll use the maintenance lifts to get to the rooftops. You can't be caught there easily." Lyria nodded, her confidence growing. I will follow you." Together, they climbed into the lift shaft, using cables and platforms to ascend. Jason's hands were steady, guiding her at every step. The city stretched below them, a maze of lights and shadows, but for the first time Lyria felt a strange sense of empowerment. She was no longer entirely at the mercy of her society. When they reached the rooftops, Jason led her to a hidden corner overlooking the city's central tower. From here, they could see the agents below, scanning, frustrated by the disappearance of their target. Jason smiled faintly. "They won't find you here." "Not today." Lyria's eyes were wide, a mixture of awe and relief. You risk so much for me." "Why?" Jason looked at her with steady eyes. "Because I know what it's like to care for someone who cannot defend themselves fully. Because I believe life is worth protecting. Because you are worth protecting." She felt something stir inside her, a feeling she had never known. Hope. And for the first time in her life, she realized that there were beings in the galaxy who could see her for who she truly was, not for what she lacked. Hours passed as they stayed hidden, watching the city below. Lyria began to speak more freely, telling Jason about her life, her failures, and the small joys she had once known. Jason listened carefully, offering advice, encouragement, and reassurance. "You are stronger than you know," he said finally, "stronger than anyone who thinks they can control you. And you are not alone, not while I'm here. For the first time, Lyria allowed herself to believe it. She was not defined by her infertility, her society's rules, or the fear that had driven her to the bridge. She was defined by her choices, her courage, and the people who cared for her. Tomorrow, Jason said, we plan the next step. We cannot stay hidden forever, but we can find a way to live without fear. Together. Lyria nodded, a small, genuine smile on her lips. Together, she repeated. As night fell once again, they remained on the rooftops, watching the neon glow of the city. Jason felt a deep sense of purpose. Lyria's survival was no longer just about hiding or escaping. It was about proving that life, courage, and compassion could triumph over fear, tradition, and prejudice. And for Lyria, sitting beside the human who had saved her from the bridge, she finally understood something vital. Humanity was not just about strength or technology. It was about heart, and she had discovered a heart willing to fight for her even against impossible odds. Tonight she was alive. Tomorrow she would begin to see just how powerful that life could be. The sun, or what passed for a sun on Virelia, rose over the city, painting the towers and streets with a soft golden glow. Jason and Lyria stood on a high rooftop overlooking the heart of the city. From here they could see movement below, citizens starting their daily routines, floating vehicles humming, and the occasional patrol drones searching for any anomalies. This is it, Jason said quietly. We cannot hide forever. If we keep running, we'll only make them more determined. But if we plan carefully, we can face this together. Lyria's large green eyes followed the city below. Face them? How? They will punish me. They will shame me. I am not strong enough. Jason shook his head, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Strength is not about fighting alone or winning every battle. Strength is about standing for what is right, protecting life, and refusing to let fear control you. That is strength. And you have it more than you realize. She hesitated, then nodded slowly. The trust she had built in Jason over the past 2 days had grown into something she could finally rely on. She took a deep breath, then, we faced them together. Jason smiled faintly. Together. They began descending into the lower districts, carefully navigating streets and back alleys to avoid patrols. Jason knew their people's devices had limits, and by staying in areas where signals were weak, they could move undetected. Lyria followed his lead, alert and cautious. Yet a new confidence had settled in her posture. At last, they reached the central plaza of Virelia, the place where Lyria's society often gathered to judge and enforce rules. Citizens were already beginning to fill the square, some curious, others indifferent, all waiting for the arrival of the council's agents. Lyria's heart raced, but Jason squeezed her hand gently. You are ready, he said. No matter what happens, remember this. Your life, your choices, and your courage matter. Do not let fear dictate your actions. Lyria nodded, taking a final deep breath. She stepped forward with Jason beside her. As they entered the plaza, the crowd's chatter fell silent. The agents who had chased them appeared at the edge of the square, scanning for any signs of escape. Their leader, a tall figure with a sleek, reflective uniform, stepped forward. Lyria, he said sharply, you have defied the rules. You have left the city without permission. Return with us now. Jason stepped in front of Lyria. She is not going anywhere against her will. She chooses to stay, and you will not harm her while I am here. The agent's eyes narrowed. You are human. You cannot interfere with the laws of Virelia. Step aside. Jason shook his head firmly. I will not. I am here to protect her. You will not take her without a fight, and if you try, you will see that humans do not give up easily. Lyria watched him carefully, her heart pounding. For the first time, she felt like she had an ally willing to stand for her no matter the consequences. She stepped forward slightly. I choose my life, she said, her voice clear and steady. I will not be judged by what I cannot change. I will live as I decide, not as you dictate, the crowd murmured, surprised by her boldness. In their society, few had ever spoken with such defiance, especially someone labeled infertile. Lyria felt a surge of courage she had never known. Jason had shown her what it meant to value herself, and now she was acting on that belief. The agent's leader hesitated, clearly unsure how to respond. This is not allowed, he said, his tone wavering. Then change your rules, Jason replied calmly. Or accept that life cannot be controlled by fear and tradition alone. She is a living being, not a symbol of your laws. And humans, we fight for life. The words hung in the air, charged with power. Citizens began to whisper among themselves, seeing for the first time that one individual could stand against the strictest rules and survive. Lyria's courage, combined with Jason's unwavering presence, created a ripple effect. The agents looked at each other, uncertainty spreading. They had been trained to enforce obedience, but Jason's human resolve was unlike anything they had faced before. It was not aggression alone, it was a determination that could not be broken. Lyria stepped fully forward, raising her head. I am alive. I am strong. I will live my life as I choose. If you cannot accept that, then you will see that life moves forward, with or without your approval. The crowd began to murmur louder, some in support, others still hesitant. But the energy of defiance had taken hold. For the first time, the society witnessed a human principle, that life, courage, and individuality mattered more than rigid tradition. Jason placed a hand lightly on Lyria's shoulder, offering strength silently. No one can define you but yourself, he whispered. The agent leader, realizing that force would only escalate the situation, signaled to hold back. She remains under observation, he said finally. But no harm will come to her. For now. Lyria's knees weakened slightly, relief washing over her. She looked at Jason, gratitude and admiration shining in her eyes. You saved me, she said, voice trembling but strong. No, Jason replied. You saved yourself. I only reminded you that life is worth fighting for. That courage is within you. They left the plaza together, moving through the city streets with a sense of calm purpose. For the first time, Lyria felt like she belonged, not because anyone accepted her, but because she had accepted herself. Over the next few days, Jason and Lyria worked together to establish a safe place for her to live. They found a small, hidden home in the quieter districts, where she could rest, learn, and grow without fear. Jason helped her adapt to the human ways of life, from simple cooking to navigating the city safely. Lyria began to discover her own strengths, her intelligence, her insight, and her capacity to care deeply for others. One evening, as they watched the neon lights of Veralia reflecting on the river below, Lyria turned to Jason. I never thought I could feel this. Alive, you have shown me. Humans are remarkable. Not just for strength, but for heart. Jason smiled, a gentle warmth in his eyes. We are sometimes. And now you know it too. You can carry this courage with you wherever you go. Lyria nodded, a smile spreading across her face. I will, and I will never forget that I am more than my society tells me. That life and love and care are stronger than any judgment. Jason placed a hand on hers. Exactly. And remember, humans fight for life, for hope, and for those who cannot fight alone. You are never alone, Lyria. Not while I am here. The two of them sat in silence, the city around them alive with color and movement. But their world for the moment was quiet, safe, and full of possibility. Lyria's journey from despair to hope had begun with a single act of trust, and now she had discovered that her life was hers to shape. The bridge where Jason had first saved her remained in her mind, a reminder of fear and the courage that overcame it. She no longer saw it as a place of despair, but as a symbol of a new beginning, a point where one life intersected with another, changing both forever. In the days that followed, Lyria began to assert herself within the city, speaking to others who had been marginalized or dismissed. Inspired by her own survival and Jason's unwavering support, she started to show that life, courage, and compassion could challenge even the strictest traditions. Jason watched her, proud and amazed. Humans had always believed in the power of individuals, and now he saw it reflected in Lyria. Her society may not fully accept her yet, but she had learned to accept herself, and that was the most important victory of all. One evening, standing again on a rooftop overlooking the city, Lyria turned to Jason. I cannot thank you enough. You saved me from despair and showed me a life I never thought I could have. Jason smiled, placing a hand on her shoulder. No thanks needed. You saved yourself by trusting that life was worth fighting for. I only reminded you of your own courage. They stood together, watching the glowing city beneath them. For the first time, the future seemed open, full of possibilities rather than fear. Lyria had faced judgment, rejection, and despair, and survived. But more importantly, she had discovered the strength within herself, the power of trust, and the truth that humans, through courage, compassion, and heart, could change lives. Jason knew that their journey was far from over. There would still be challenges, whispers of judgment, and obstacles to overcome. But for now, Lyria was alive, empowered, and free to define herself. And that was enough. As the lights of Virelia reflected in the calm river below, Jason and Lyria stood together, ready to face whatever came next. The bridge, once a symbol of fear, had become a symbol of hope. And in that hope, they found a future neither could have imagined alone, but both could create together. Life, courage, and humanity had triumphed,